Hey, Monica. So look at what's happening in El Salvador. This is amazing, amazing times. Well, first of all, everybody, welcome to El Salvador. This is your country. And one of the few questions, we're going to be asking some questions, very interesting questions. And seriously, what led to the decision of BTC adoption in El Salvador?
Well, first of all, welcome to the capital of Bitcoin in the world. We're really happy to have you. And I will add, it's just the beginning. It's really the tip of the iceberg. We're very excited to have everybody here and to see the interest that our decision has made not only on Bitcoiners around the world, but also companies. I focus specifically on investment and technological investment. So for me, it's really gratifying. It's proof of concept to see everybody here. To answer your question, when prior to President Bukele winning the election in 2019, it was already a path. There was already a plan in order to modernize the country. That's really the quest that everybody in the government has, regardless whether it's technology, whether it's agriculture, whether it's health, education, everything. So you might imagine that adopting Bitcoin, or actually having a conversation about the future in regards to fintech, was a necessary conversation, was a necessary talk, not just internally, but at large, with some people, some leaders around the world. There is a digital agenda that was written, a plan, if you will, written by our Innovation Secretariat, written in 2019. So it encompasses a lot of the things that we're going to be adopting as a country, including a digital identity that focuses on two pillars, health and education. And you can actually check this digital agenda 2020-2050. It has a 30-year span. Why? Because we know that 5 years, which is the presidential term, won't be enough in order to start modernizing the country. We need time. We're behind and we know it. So we're racing and we're trying to accomplish a lot of things. And obviously, fintech is a priority for our country.
Thank you. It's very interesting to see, like, for example, right now, talking about technology, now we see merchants and different people just exchanging Bitcoin through Lightning and Bitcoin as well through on-chain. But how do you see El Salvador 2 years from now? Based on that path that you have tracked, do you think we are on that path, or are we deviating from it?
No, I wouldn't say that we're deviating from it. We're actually moving forward. Whether or not we're doing it as fast as we would like it, that's a different story. But the fact that Bitcoin has become a legal tender in El Salvador, and we have become, by default, an example for the world, and we're setting cues, if you will, for other governments to see what we're doing, how this experiment can work. The idea, or the ideal, I should say, situation would be for people across the country, for the event, for the 70% of the population that doesn't own bank accounts. The ideal situation would be for them to have financial freedom. And what I mean by that is not just to be able to purchase a coffee or a cocoa, a coconut, right, on the street with using the Lightning Network. It will really be to learn how to invest, to learn how to hold, to learn how to perhaps use a portion of that Bitcoin and for everyday necessities, but at the same time to learn the fact that if they hold Bitcoin, then they will not only be breaking the financial freedom barrier, but at the same time they can actually accumulate wealth, and that should be the goal. That we should be able to see a difference between today and 2 years from now.
Yes, definitely. What we see here is that things that are happening in El Salvador is we were coming from the airport, and what we saw once was that we went to purchase a coconut, and this is an example that the person sold us the coconut, and we asked, hey, do you accept Bitcoin? And he said, listen, how can I accept Bitcoin, but because I don't have a phone. So, like you say, there's a lot to work on, and we need to use Bitcoin in the best way so that we can provide all the technology necessary for this to work. Because if El Salvador works, I know everybody, everywhere, it will work. So, following to the next question now, the country has officially adopted Bitcoin. What's the next focus of the government on its implementation?
What's the plan about its implementation?
Yes, what's the next focus of the government in its implementation now that it is still authentic, officially?
Well, like I said at the beginning, we really believe that Bitcoin is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many other things that are coming up, and some things I can talk about and others I can't. But if you check out this digital agenda that I was telling you about on presidencia.gov, GOV, B as in boy, as in government, .sb, B as in Victor, then you'll have access to that digital agenda. And in it, you will see that we're talking about digital identity, we're talking about really innovating the country in many areas. And the focus of the priority of these areas, of these pillars, is fintech. So when I tell you that Bitcoin is just the beginning, trust me, it's just the beginning. And we want to make sure that, I think the biggest challenge relates to the prior question. We really want to keep educating our population so they understand that this legal tender can be used not only for transactions, it can be used in order to create wealth.
Yes, very good, thank you. And knowing what you know now, is there anything that the government should have done differently? Based on the experience of, making it legal really quick, but knowing what you know now.
I actually have a list. No, I'm kidding. Actually, it's trial and error, guys. I mean, we became the first ones to do this, and there are going to be many things that perhaps back home you are going to say, oh, we should stop it, we've done it this way, or they should be doing this, or they really can stop with this, right? It's okay, but we're confident that the path that we're taking right now and the steps that we have taken are helping us accomplish that goal. Yes, perhaps we could be doing many other things, but number one, there's only so many hours in the day, and two, we're learning as we go as well, simply because we're the first ones to do this.
Yes, and that's true. Like one of the things that we do at Maxwell is that we learn from our users, and this is something that is happening right now in El Salvador. We're learning from everybody that is using Bitcoin, and we're listening to what's happening, and I know that the government is also doing the same. And okay, so isn't it not? There are a lot of companies here in El Salvador, a lot of companies coming into El Salvador. What do you think is attracting them the most?
Let me share with you that when I first heard about the adoption of Bitcoin internally, yes, I was overwhelmed with happiness because I've been in technology for over 20 years, and I was actually, I don't consider myself an early adopter, but I bought Bitcoin in 2014, and I bought a lot of it, and I never sold it. So of course, this was, this was really great, great news for my country, for the country where I was born. However, I do think that a lot of companies and a lot of investors and a lot of people who are, Bitcoiners and perhaps are not necessarily part of a company, number one, got excited simply because this was never done, right? There was this tiny country in the Central American region that was legalizing the use of Bitcoin. So, great news. However, at the same time, I don't think, and I'm telling you from personal experience, I don't think we were ready for the wave of companies that came to us. We were working non-stop, even before the law took effect. I'm talking about June, when the president first announced it. And the next week, we had a lot of companies, just ran to us and calls non-stop, and they wanted to set up meetings. So it it was a crazy wave of events leading all the way until today, basically. I don't think we've slept, that much since June, honestly. But it's besides the legal environment, which translates into protection. I also think that people, especially you who are here, see the potential. Meaning, today is Bitcoin. Tomorrow is going to be DAOs, just like in Wyoming, and perhaps the next day it's going to be just DeFi. And if we open the door for DeFi, imagine what that means in terms of investment. So for me, it's been incredible to deal and to onboard most of the companies that have come into the country because of this news.
Yes, and I testify on that because we first came here as Paxful. Monica gave us a great welcome, and the government of Salvador opened the door to us in a really professional way, showed us like where to go, how to do things, and we say thank you on behalf of Paxful, and thank you, Monica, for your hard work, because I know that, El Salvador is here. You're doing a great job representing the Office of the Presidency and sending the message that El Salvador right now is ready for business. So to continue here, now what has Bitcoin paved the way that you did not foresee? What has Bitcoin paved the way that you did not foresee?
Well, I think then again, in 2019, we're not thinking about, I'm going to be honest, we were not even thinking about, yes, we were talking about fintech, and there is that pillar in the digital agenda. There was a conversation about, obviously, about the need to digitalize a lot of the processes and a lot of the way the government conducts, business. It's a need and it was a priority. But I don't think in 2019 we were talking about Bitcoin the way we are doing it now. Much less we were talking about DAOs, or we were talking about DeFi, or we were talking about so many other topics.
Smart contracts, right?
So I think it's been really teamwork, under the leadership of President Bukele, and it's just the beginning. I mean, we're not foreseeing. I cannot tell you right now. In 2022, we are going to pass this other law. What I can tell you is that we know for sure that Bitcoin is just the beginning for us.
Yes, I have been in different meetings. I'm from El Salvador, and I have been in different meetings like all over here. And like some of our friends, they say, I cannot believe that everything, all these companies are coming here, that this is El Salvador, we're receiving all these visitors like you. And this is something that is actually like exciting because it's a big movement and we have to make it work. Yes.
And I just want to share something else really quick. In 2017, I sold a company that used to do business in the U.S. Hispanic market and Latin America. And I have a tremendous respect for the digital landscape in Argentina and Chile. Chile is well known to, and it's called the Silicon Valley of Latin America. And Argentinians are well known for having pushed the digital agenda way back in the day, and there are a lot of programmers and a lot of developers and they have clients outside of Argentina, therefore making more money than if they sold, as opposed to selling their services internally. So I've always had a lot of respect for both Chile and Argentina. And seeing companies here from those two countries yesterday, for me was just proof of concept. We're doing something right in El Salvador. And it was great to have all of these guys from, just well-known companies, crypto companies in Argentina. And then again, I'm focusing on Latin America, right? Because that's what's next to us. But it's also fantastic to see all of these well-known companies from the US, Europe, Singapore, and different countries in Asia. We really never expected it to be this way.
Yes, and especially that we have seen that there are different aspects right now that have been constructed with Bitcoin. We see a hospital, a pet hospital, was that in the agenda or was that because the price went up? And also, was also the new schools that are coming on board being constructed because the
digital agenda, but the Plan Plan was a series of proposals that the president, at that time the candidate Bukele, presented to the population. And there was a pillar focused on saving, especially dogs, right? If you're really going to, you don't have to go into the countryside, you can see them here in San Salvador, in the capital city. You will see a lot of dogs just walking on the sidewalk without collar, without license, right? I mean, nothing.
We saw some yesterday at Adopción.
Did you feed them?
Yes, we did.
Okay, good. So there was a pillar about helping these pets, right? Helping these dogs, and but there was never a conversation about building a hospital, much less using Bitcoin to pay for it. And the same thing with the schools. And it's just an example. I mean, I think more and more you're going to be hearing more and more news about what we're going to be able to do with the profit from the money that we invested.
Perfect, thank you. Now, going to the topic of security, cybersecurity, we have seen that since the adoption of Bitcoin this year, as well there in El Salvador, we have seen like a lot of people telling that they have started to receive phishing emails and from countries like Asia, areas like Asia. What is the government doing to implement cybersecurity due to the fact that right now we have electronic money, Bitcoin, and there's a lot of people in the country, there's going to be a lot of investments and everything. Is there a specific pattern, or what is the government doing to secure that cybersecurity?
That's a great question. We didn't have a cybersecurity industry if problems wouldn't exist, right? Thieves wouldn't exist. And I think the cybersecurity issue is not just an issue for us, and in this case for the Chivo wallet, but for so many of your companies and so many companies around the world. I think the Chivo wallet team is doing as much as it can in order to remediate that issue. We're constantly reporting accounts, especially, I see it on Twitter, for instance, fake support accounts that are targeting people. And it's going to, unfortunately, it's going to keep happening until it doesn't. The same way it's been happening, it happens in the States. And you would say, well, the States has the greatest companies when it comes to cybersecurity, the most secure systems, processes, if you will. But it keeps happening. So imagine, the same thing will happen, unfortunately, in El Salvador. But I can assure you that it's an issue that we have taken not just into consideration, but that we're really taking a close look at.
Yes, and us as companies like Spaxton, we invest in security. Okay, no, we invest in security, and this is something that it's part of the responsibility for not only like the government, but also the companies that come here to invest in El Salvador and part of this beautiful ecosystem, to also put some numbers in there so that we have the users have very good experience. Okay, and Monica, what effort is the government doing to educate the Salvadorian people? Some people are still scared about Bitcoin. And what's the effort that the government is implementing on that?
It's a very good question, and I'm going to answer it this way. A lot of people, when President Bukele won the election, a lot of people, you read this in social media, ideas, comments, everybody thinks that they're experts on something, right? Not everybody, all of us, I think, when we talk on social media. So a lot of people were saying, no, we shouldn't adopt Bitcoin. We should go back to the colon, which used to be our currency up until 2001, before we adopted the US dollar. 2001. So for some people who are very patriotic, I'm not saying that I'm not, I am very patriotic, but I also know that the future wasn't in going back to a currency that was dead, that was killed in 2001. It was great to remember that, I still have colones, right? But that's not technology, and that's not the future. The future was to adopt a legal tender that would take us into the next century. That's the way I see it, that's the way we saw it. In regards to education, I'm mentioning this because it is really like a stepping stone for people to understand that we shouldn't go backwards, we should go forward. That's one. Two, the country right now is bound to creating an ecosystem of clusters. What the heck does that mean? Industrial clusters. If you read about them, they have them in Asia, they have them in Mexico, they have them in India, they have them in several countries around the world. A cluster is basically a group of companies. Let's think about the aerospace industry. A group of companies that usually, or most of the time, find themselves in the same geographical area, and they either manufacture or distribute or design products and services that pertain to that specific industry, in this case, the aerospace industry. So, a few weeks ago, we launched our aeronautics and aerospace cluster. It's called Aerocluster. However, the government didn't launch it by itself. We did it under what we call the triple helix concept: government, academia, and private sector. Why? Because the government is supposed to get up there and find investment opportunities for these companies that are already there, and is in charge of bringing even more companies to that cluster, to that industry. Academia is leading the way in terms of innovation, and private sector, in this case, the companies that are already here, the ones that are coming in, like you guys, help move the ecosystem and create jobs and generate more profit, not just for themselves, but for the country in general. So we're creating 14 of these different clusters: plastic cluster, leather cluster, blockchain and crypto cluster. Why? Because we understand that we need to, number one, accelerate manufacturing, and two, focus on creating more investment opportunities. So, education. Yes, the government plays a pivotal role in educating its population. However, it cannot do it by itself. We need academia to do that. And we have seen a few different examples where many universities have started, number one, offering crypto classes, not just Bitcoin, but crypto in general, blockchain, anything that relates to Lightning Network. We're seeing even degrees, mini degrees, like certificates, right? Or technical careers already in crypto. So academia is also helping with that task. It cannot be just the government. It's actually impossible if this task or this responsibility was left just for the government. And at the same time, I've seen companies like Paxful, right, that are educating the population. You guys just went to Tasajera, which is an island, in the middle of nowhere, and you're educating the population there and showing them not only how to use the Paxful wallet, but at the same time explaining to them what the heck Bitcoin is and why it's necessary for them to adopt it and how they can make transactions with it. And at the same time, I've seen other companies that are already situated in the country that have opened offices, and they're on the same path. They're educating because they know that without education, it's not going to work out.
Yes, definitely. Can you listen? Yes. Okay. No, yeah, thank you. Yes, and this is something that is one of the things that Paxful does. Salvador, since we came, we started doing Paxful campus tours with 8 universities already, and we saw how all the students were incredibly interested. Their questions was they wanted to learn so much about it and how to use it. And also, we have offered master classes as well to other institutions, even government institutions. We have offered, we have given master classes to government institutions with 8,000 employees because everybody is eager to learn. And I agree with you, the government doesn't have the only task to go ahead and, okay, here's legal tender, I will educate. No. Every single person that has visited El Salvador today, if you go and do a transaction, a deal, lighting, and you have the opportunity to go ahead and educate themselves, I mean, we are thankful for that because we have to make it work. And also, one of the paths with the universities as well, we signed an MOU as well with the university here, and we're going to be working with them, providing them all the tools necessary companies that are coming to visit El Salvador. I mean, it's a task for everybody. And as well, we're opening a Bitcoin training center. It's going to be in La Salvador, and it's going to be a home for every single crypto company that want to go as well and learn, and also to teach, and also for the people of El Salvador to go ahead and walk in and say, hey, listen, I want to learn about Bitcoin. So we're doing that, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. So we, like, one of the things that the president said, and I remember this, is it was like somebody asked him in a Twitter space. And he said, so what are you gonna do? Do you know? And he said, we need all the help we can get. So yes, this is very good. So well, thank you, Monica, for you have any closing statements for the presentation?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here today. I really want to thank everybody in this room. Number one, because you decided to make a trip to El Salvador, to a country where just a few months ago, prior to the president announcing that we were going to be doing this, that we're going to be adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender in June. We were well known for our maras, which translates into gangs, right? I would be the first one to admit that yes, there are gangs in El Salvador. But at the same time, I'm also going to say that unfortunately, a lot of the reputation that our country has, has received is because of that. The negative always comes out first, right? However, it is at the same time gratifying to see that now people outside of our borders are looking at us as Bitcoin land, as Bitcoin nation. So it took something as decisive and as irreverent, if you will, for us to adopt, to do, for the reputation to change a little bit, and for people like you who have actually made the time, spent money in purchasing a ticket, an airplane ticket, hotel, everything that you're spending in this country, for to be here, to be at this conference, and to be part of this, of the history that we're creating together. So I really thank you for coming, and I hope that you have a great time in El Salvador. If you need anything, and especially if you need to, if you know someone, or if you in your company want to invest, please come and talk to